Hi, I'm Brian DeCord. Welcome to the Goalie podcast. I am joined here with John Corrado. We have a special guest, Cami Kronish. And John, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Doing great.
Yeah.
Always looking forward to the Friday podcast. It's always a lot of fun.
Are you excited to grill Cami?
Well, I'm excited because I knew she went to Wisconsin and won 8 championship. I didn't realize it was 3 in a row.
Three.
So
Yeah.
I'm excited to get into the idea like how you build a culture like that where you can win 3 in a row, because that's obviously a lot of leadership being passed down year after year. So I'm excited to talk about that.
Well, first off, let's introduce Cami to our audience. Well, and if you're not familiar with myself, I'm Brian DeCord. I'm Director of Goaltending Scouting and Development for the Detroit Red Wings. I'm the owner of Stop It Goaltending, former goalie coach at Boston University, the Boston Bruins, goalie scout at the Toronto Maple Leafs, and Director of Goaltending at the Arizona Coyotes. John Crowder is a former Merrimack College goalie coach, a former Northeastern and Boston College goalie coach. And we're joined with Harvard's goalie coach, John. Harvard, you ever heard of it?
It's some place. I think a lot of people refer to it as a safety school.
Yeah, safety school. Yeah. So we've got Cam Cross. She's the goaltending coach at Harvard University, and she's also running Stop It Goaltending U for Stop It Goaltending. Three-time, as you mentioned, three-time national champion, former PWHL goalie, played in Sweden as well in AIK, a storied franchise over there. Welcome, Cami.
Thanks for having me. And John, I wish you were right that it was 3 in a row, but unfortunately it was not. Your old school Northeastern actually stopped us from doing that.
Gotcha.
Would that have been Aaron Frankel?
That wasn't Aaron Frankel year. That was we
When?
lost in the quarterfinal in 2022.
Okay. And who was playing?
Yep.
Who's the goalie?
Aaron was in net for Northeastern, and Kennedy Blair was playing for us.
I got you.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to, because I'm fascinated by this first question. John just got right into it, dove into how do you develop a culture? Is it a culture? Is it they have all the money and they're able to have the best facilities and best program? Is it the coach? Is it a combination of those? Like what's the magic or the secret sauce that Wisco has put together?
I think it's a combination of the three. I don't know if you've ever had a chance to go out to Madison and see the facility, but it is top notch, and they were probably one of the first, if not the first, program to have a women's rink and a women's facility separate from the men. And obviously the coach, Mark Johnson, is a legend. And at this point, I think there's such a standard of success that when you show up, you're expected to win. And that comes with a lot of responsibility. So that's putting 110% effort every single day. But with a culture that has that high of expectations, if you don't meet them, then, you're not in the right place, kind of thing. So I would say that it's passed down, and it's also very environmental. But I mean, I remember my freshman year, I got there and there were girls coming back from the Olympics, and you see them and you see their work ethic and their dedication as an 18-year-old, and you're like, okay, that's what I have to do. I want to follow in their footsteps. I want to do the right thing. I don't want to be caught slacking. So it's really, it's a bunch of things, but I think that kind of culture set by the older girls is something that you learn as, you go through your years there, and that makes the difference.
I can't, and listen to you, I can't help but think about this week's primers about habits, right? So basically what you're telling me is there's a standard, and you get there and you know what the standard is, and everybody buys into that standard. And if you're not going to hold yourself to that, then you shouldn't be there.
Yeah, there was a board on the wall in our locker room that had like 5 key values of Wisconsin hockey. And so you get in there the first day, you see what those are, you see the way that everybody's acting, and you either hop in the boat, as Coach Johnson liked to say. He liked to say you have to have 2 feet in the boat at all times. If you have 1 foot in the boat and 1 foot on the ground, the boat is going to be tipping side to side. And just repeat those things every single day. We're all creatures of habit, and I think that comes from the coaches. Like Coach Johnson, the routine that he has is the exact same. He never ever gets surprised by anything on the bench. He's so level-headed. It's just the same thing every single day, reinforcing the same habits, and that trickles down to us too.
Now, it wasn't an easy go for you there. You didn't walk in there and be the anointed starter. You were there for 5 years.
5 years.
And you had to go earn. You had to go earn your chance to be in the net. What was that like emotionally? How was that from a self-esteem, looking at yourself that, you weren't the starter early on, you finished up the starter, you finished up exactly where you wanted to be, but it must have been tough for you to kind of get your mindset in the right spot to keep on plugging away.
It was definitely tough. I came in my freshman year and I knew that I was going to redshirt that year. So that was all just about soaking up as much as I possibly could, trying to get up to speed. And then the 3 years after that, like, they were tough. I leaned on my teammates a lot. My teammates are the best people in the world, and I honestly don't think that I could have done those 3 years of, sitting on the bench, trying to get a chance to play without their support. But there were times where I questioned, like, do I want to be here? Am I doing the right thing? Why do I keep doing this? And for me, it always just came back to the team. I absolutely loved the team and putting in the effort for something bigger than yourself. And, it helped that we were winning. Obviously, you don't really want to leave a program after winning a national championship or two, but it was hard. My parents and my sister were also really helpful and supportive during that time. But I think I always kind of knew that if I had a chance, that I would be able to, show my stuff and succeed. So that kept me going as well. And thankfully it paid off in the end.
I'm always curious. So you go for a redshirt year. How's it feel getting your first start playing on such a high level team as that?
I was terrified.
Do you have a coach that you talk to? Do you have somebody that helped you? I mean, obviously that first start is nerve wracking up when you're playing on a high level team like that. So what was that like?
I was so scared, and my first start ever was not to diss them, but we were playing LIU in their first year of D1. And like, I knew that it wasn't the same vibe as like playing Minnesota. We all know that, just call a spade a spade. But I was so nervous, and we were also in New York. So I was in my home. My parents were there. My dog was there. My other family and friends were there. I was so nervous. I would say the person that helped me the most was our goalie coach, Mark Greenhall. He's just always so steady and never takes it too seriously. So he was always somebody that I could go to and be like, I am so nervous. And he would bring a little bit of levity to the situation and make me feel more comfortable. I mean, I remember going onto the ice before the third period of the national championship game, and we're winning 1-0 against Ohio State. And I said to him, I'm like, Greenie, I'm so effing nervous. And he's like, don't be nervous. Like, just keep doing what you're doing. You've done this so many times. You've practiced so much. Just go out and play, do the same thing that you've been doing. And that brought me right back down to earth.
So the support of your teammates was one thing, but we run into this all the time, John and I, when we're working with goalies and they're struggling, whether it's at the junior level or college. And it's when you start questioning, like, what am I doing? Right? Because you're grinding away, but there's no reward. So it's all the sacrifice, and you're not getting the reward and so you leaned on your teammates. What does that mean? Or like, what does that mean? You leaned on your teammates, and then how did? Because I always go back to, if you don't love it as a kid, you're not going to be able to withstand that time. You'll quit,
Yeah.
right? If you don't build that passion up when you're really young. So was that like in your case? Did you have like just a really good youth hockey, a younger experience? You loved hockey so much that when it really came down to the grind time, you were able to pull that passion out of you?
Yeah, absolutely. I always had a really good experience playing, and my parents were always so supportive. Like if I wanted to go play somewhere, they were going to cheer me on and they were going to bring me to the game and support me. And there was never a point in my life growing up once I started playing hockey where I questioned if I wanted to continue. I always just loved it. And I think it was a combination of that, just absolutely loving what I was doing, and also doing it with my best friends. Those two things made the work seem not like work. Like, honestly, it was hard emotionally, but I don't really think so much about the work of it because it was all just part of it. Like, it was just part of the things that you had to do to prepare, and the daily routine and the weekly routine leading up to a game, all the practices, the skating, everything. It was just part of the game to me, and I loved every part of it, and I loved going through it all with people that I loved. So
Cami, it's funny, like all upper level goalies that we've been fortunate enough to coach, when you ask them a similar question, it's always the same answer. I just love the process. I love everything about it. I love the weight room. I love the training. I love the video room. I love the work. I got to put in myself. They just love the whole process of it. And all of a sudden they start seeing themselves getting better and better and better. But every upper level goaltender we've talked to, it's just always the same thing. I just love the whole process of being a goaltender, not just game day, but I love everything that goes into it. Practice time, locker room time, being with my friends, being able to work, having my friends and teammates push me to work better. It's just that common theme of just loving the whole process of it.
yeah, yeah. I guess it's that quote, like, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. Like, that's what it felt like. I was just loving it. It never felt like work.
So, which kind of goes into that next segment. So you leave Wisco, and then now it's going over to AI. Was it right to AIK, right from Wisco?
Yeah, so when I graduated, they hadn't formally announced the PWHL yet, and I was getting nervous about not having a place to play. So I made plans to go play in Sweden because two of my best friends from Wisconsin were already over there playing for Gordon in Stockholm. Um, Unfortunately, they didn't have enough money to bring in another international. So I picked like the next closest team because I knew I wanted to be in the city. And so AIK was that team. Um, and then over the summer, they had announced the PWHL, but I had already made my decision to go to Sweden. And it was short lived. So I eventually ended up coming back to the US to play for the Fleet in that first year. But I spent about a month there in the time between.
Explain to John and I, who don't live in that world, are there opportunities in Europe for women to go over after they play college? What's that like? What's that experience? What's the level? Fill us in a little bit about what that's like going over there, and where do you go? Do you go to Germany? Do you go to Finland, Sweden? Like, where do elite college players, because it's hard to make the PWHL right
Yeah.
now. It's hard to make
Yeah.
the PW. So
Yeah.
what opportunities are there out there?
So I would say Sweden is the premier league. If there was like an AHL of the PW, I would say that it's Sweden now. That's something that's been developing over the past 2 or so years, where players have been going to Sweden as a means to get themselves adjusted to pro hockey and playing against stronger girls, and then they'll come back to the US. I would say the one distinction is it really, really depends where you go, because the women's programs are funded by their men's side. So the men's side, the SHL, you can be relegated, you can be in a lower division, and therefore you're not making as much money. And however the men's team is doing really impacts the women's team. So I didn't know that. I didn't really pay attention to that until I got there. And the conditions of like the facility and the coaching and all of the other important things of AIK were at a low standard in comparison to what my friends at Gordon were having, because the men's team at Gordon was in the top division and AIK had not been for a couple of years, so they didn't have a lot of money. And there was a huge disparity between like the rinks that we played at, the locker rooms, what we had access to, like massage therapist, athletic trainer, gym, all these different things. It was so different. They were like living what I considered to be a professional hockey life, and I was not. And I think it's really improved over the past 2 years since the P-Dub has been successful, and more players are going to Sweden if they can't play in the P-Dub. But when I was there, I was kind of surprised by the difference between programs and teams.
Now, how did you find the team? Are there agents that specifically find opportunities for players, or were you on your own trying to figure things out?
So I initially emailed teams that I was interested in playing for. I did get an agent later on, but most of the stuff that I did with Sweden was just emails and phone calls back and forth with me and they call it like the sport manager. So the general manager and the head coach of the team.
Okay. So you took it upon yourself, you took the initiative.
Yeah.
And then you came back to the Fleet. How was that?
It was awesome. It was super cool. Being part of that first year was unbelievable, and being teammates with people like Hillary Knight and Gigi Marvin, like people that I grew up watching in the Olympics, was so surreal. It was so competitive and so fast and just such a step up from college. But it was an amazing experience. Being able to play in sold out arenas was surreal.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing, eh? Go ahead, John.
I was going to say, I think the league's done a tremendous job. I think the growth pattern with the way they're doing is adding a couple teams this year, and I think they're doing so many things right. And if you watch the games, if you watch highlights of the game and stuff, they're filling buildings. And then on top of that, they're really getting out in the community. They're meeting fans. They're doing everything possible to make the league successful. And I think it's going to really work. I think it's going to create more and more, not only opportunities for players, but if you're involved in the sport, you want to get into a sport that's growing. Women's hockey is probably one of the fastest growing sports in right now in North America. And I also like with the women's hockey, they've got a couple of their own rules too. Like they're doing a couple of things different. Like what's it? The jailbreak rule. If you score in a goal, your teammate gets released from the penalty box and stuff like little things like that. They're making the league their own. They're not just trying to copy the NHL. They're making the league their own, and I think they're doing a great job of it. I think going to season 3, I mean, they're looking great. It's stable. They got a fan base and everything. So I think the sky's the limit for the league going forward.
Yeah, I think it's been more successful than any of us players could have ever hoped for it. Like the people that run the league have done a fantastic job. And also the players, I think we understand our responsibility of getting out there in the community and doing those outreach things to try to get people interested in what we're doing and get more little girls playing hockey. Like I worked 2 camps this summer where we went around and we asked the girls what they wanted to be when they grew up, and most of them said professional hockey players in the PWHL. And like I when I was growing up, I wanted to play in the NHL, and like obviously that's not realistic, but now they actually have something realistic that they can try to achieve. It's amazing.
The level of goaltending talent in that league, it's phenomenal. I mean,
Oh, it's insane.
if you look across the board, and most of the goalies have name recognition, like these names, and the talent you're seeing, like when I remember watching the finals 2 years ago, that was a great game, and the goaltending there was just spectacular. You look at the playoffs last year, how good that was. I mean, it's just there's so much talent there, and it's only going to get more and more because they're adding more college teams, throughout college hockey. So there's going to be more players playing, more youth programs developing players, and on top of that, they're getting better coaching throughout from youth hockey all the way up. They're getting better coaching at that level. They're getting better coaching in prep school and high school to get to college. I coached again. I was at Boston College for a year in Hockey East, and I was just amazed at the level of talent throughout the league, the coaching, the quality of coaching, and it's only going to get better and better.
Totally.
Okay, so now you go from Wisco to Sweden, back home, Boston, and you stay in Boston. You take a spot with Harvard University as a goalie coach. So now you've got to go from being a goalie to coaching goalies. All right. I know you've done the camps and clinics, so you're ready for it. What was that transition like for you? What did you learn about goaltending and coaching by going from, straight from player right to coaching?
I learned that the more that I coached, I felt like I was a better goalie myself. Like, I was able to learn more about my own game from like coaching other goalies, and then I would get on the ice and I would really be able to slow it down and pick out the details. So I wish that I had started coaching earlier.
Hey, if I can jump in for 1 second, here's a bit of advice I have for every college goaltender or even a high level junior goaltender. Go and say to any local goalie school, can I volunteer to coach this year? And it's going to make you such a better goaltender. You're going to have to learn drills. You're going to have to learn how to teach. You're going to have to learn to recognize tendencies. You're going to have to become more disciplined just being in that type of environment. And like Cami, like you said, it makes you a better goaltender if you've coached. It's like if you teach something, you have to become a student of it to be able to teach it. And I think that's just my bit of advice. Any goaltender, you want to get better over the summer, not only train, but train other goaltenders. So that's just something.
I encourage my goalies at Harvard to look at their goalie partners when they're not in the net. Like, watch them, identify what they're doing right, what you would like to, like, constructive criticisms that you would have, something that you can pull from their game and maybe try it for yourself. Because I think there's so much opportunity there that kind of goes unnoticed when you're growing up. You're just focused on yourself, and that's normal. But if you can look at other goalies and try to coach them in your head, then you're going to get in the net with a brand new perspective on what you can do in certain situations. So that was huge for me. But I think also, just like John said, like, learning to teach was something that I had to learn, and I still am learning, like, how to work with different people of different communication styles, different ways of understanding. So that's been something that I continue to work on.
And you will always work on that, because John and we've been doing this combined probably about 150 years.
I think that sounds about
we're
right.
we're still learning. You're still learning all the time. How is the landscape now in college hockey for the women? The men, like, we've got the Wild West. We've got 3 pro players that have played 50 games in the East Coast League, now getting college eligibility. So it's absolutely crazy here. I'm in Pittsburgh at the USHL Fall Classic. It's a lot different than it's been in the past. So what's going on in the girls' game and with the NIL money, and how are things going there? What's going on with the women's game?
From what I have learned, the women's game is a couple years behind the men in that regard of handing out money to players. I know that there are some programs that are doing it. We don't have any Gavin McKenna's that are getting that amount of money. And just because we don't have any real, like, juniors or AHL you haven't seen players come from pro in like a junior pro to playing in college. I don't know if that's something that is going to start happening, if players are going to start going to Sweden and then coming back and playing college. I don't know. That would be something to keep an eye out for. But I don't think the landscape is quite there yet in terms of offering players money to come play at your school. Like, certain schools do it, but it's not at the level that the men are at right now.
So there are some women's programs that are giving NIL deals to players.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like the usual suspects. It's the schools that have enough money to do it. So think Big Ten, you know, a school like that has a big football program, a big basketball program where they're able to share the money. I think it will be interesting to see how it plays out, especially on the East Coast, for teams that don't have, or schools that don't have that kind of money to play with because they don't have those big programs. It'll be interesting to see the creative ways that they try to attract players.
Is the level going up at the college?
NCAA?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah. Just this past year, I went to go watch the national championship game, and I'm always watching different teams play. And the speed and the physicality, I would say, are the two big things that stand out to me. The physicality was actually one of the hot topics at this past year's coaching conference in Florida, talking about how can we best prepare our players for the transition to pro. Like, do we have to modify our rules in the NCAA to allow for more hitting? Should we be teaching hitting? How can we make it safer for them to move to that next level of hockey where it's going to be more physical and they might not know how to protect themselves?
I just, from the year I coached with the women's hockey, the skill level, I was so surprised by that the skating ability, the puck handling ability, the ability to make passes, the hockey IQ of some of these players. There's a lot of talent out there. And Cami, as you were saying, that's one of the things we're talking about, because I was there during their inaugural season of the PWHL, and they were talking about, like, now our job now is not just to create good college hockey players. We got to start developing pro players. So that's something that's kind of going on in the mindset of a lot of the coaches is, hey, it's not enough just to recruit a player to get them to our college. We now have to prove to players that not only will you come here, get a good education, we can also further you on to one of the pro teams or an Olympic team, or something like that. So the landscape as far as coaching is changing a bit too.
Yeah, for sure. It's been really interesting to see how programs, and also just from my year in the PWHL, are approaching that. And in regards to the physicality, I know that a lot of PWHL teams brought in former NHL players to teach them how to hit, because the skill is there and the speed is there, but they're kind of like, there's this like dangerous physicality simply because we didn't grow up learning how to do it the way that boys, when they hit U15 or whatever, start to learn how to hit. So it's like you have all of these skills, you have the speed, you have the strength, but how do you control that and not hurt other people?
And is it good for the sport? Like, should we have hitting in the game?
I'll be honest, from what I've watched with the Olympics, college hockey, the Women's Pro League, I like the physicality where it is. The idea of separating the player from the puck along the boards and then kind of riding players off, angling in, body contact is there. I don't necessarily want to see the play where it's separating the player's head from their shoulders. I hope they keep it, keep the aggressiveness, but like I said, teach them how to do it properly. Because what I've seen so far, I've enjoyed watching the games.
I think most of the girls would agree with you. Like, the physicality is good. It's just a matter of teaching them to do it the right way. I don't think anybody wants open ice hits or things like that, but like the squeezing along the boards is good. And I mean, it's going to happen anyway. That's just the way that it's headed. Like, people are trying to earn their spot in the league. And if it's by being a physical player, then that's what they're going to do.
I've got a question, and it just kind of dawned on me because it's back to the old 6-team era. Do you guys get little things going, like little, like, rivalries or stuff? Because you're seeing the same players consistently now. When it was, that, like, the old 6-team NHL, you see a lot of the teams coming through the whole time. You just look and go, okay, number
They
7's
used to
coming up
hate each
here.
other. Yeah, they
Yep.
used to hate each other.
Yep.
It's actually, I would say it's kind of the opposite, because previously the girls that played for Team Canada and the girls that played for US have always been separate. And so when they would play international games, that's when you would, like, have somebody's number and it would be ultra competitive. But now that everybody's getting mixed up, you're going to be on a line with somebody that you probably tried to take their head off in the last international game. Now you have to learn how to be their teammate. So I think in that regard, everybody's become more friendly to each other, which is kind of weird, right? Like, it's not what you would expect. But one of my best friends is going to go play in Montreal, and the majority of that team are Canadian girls. And so she's going to become friends with all of them, learn how to play with them.
That is interesting. I think that's good for hockey, actually. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Good.
Everybody wants the same result at the end of the day. Everybody wants the league to succeed. And of course, when they then go back to their respective countries, like, it's crazy. But in the league, I would say it's more friendly than you would think.
The next transition, right? You've started working in the office at Stop It Goaltending, and taking over Stop It Goaltending U, the app. Can you tell us a little bit about your role with Stop It Goaltending U and what's going on there?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are trying to make the app the best goalie resource app that there is. We are providing content from our directors that will provide coaching insight, game analysis, drill analysis, all of these things that will help you become a better goalie. And what my role is to really just elevate it. So I've been working on organizing all of this content, taking inventory of it, delegating videos to different directors, bouncing a lot of ideas off of John and Pat and all these people that I see in the office. We're going to be sending out a feedback form soon to get the temperature of how people are feeling about the app and what we could do better and what we could put in it to get more people using it. But there's a lot of opportunity with it. We obviously have the quality there. So we're just trying to find the best way to present the information that we have.
Well, that's exciting. I know for me, I love the app because I learn so much from it. I get little nuggets every time I look at a video. I get a nugget and I apply it to my scouting, my coaching, and I just find it extremely helpful. I know that I really enjoy our virtual calls. So on the premium version, the workshops that we have on the Fridays with the parents and the coaches, we got a great bunch of parents and coaches that join us on Fridays to have a good talk. Today was crazy. The talk was supposed to be a breakdown of Sergei Bobrovsky, but we never got a chance to watch one video clip because the conversation just went in 3 different directions. But it was fantastic stuff. So if you're not familiar with the app, you can always go to the Apple Store or Google Play and go and get a 7-day trial. It's called Stop Goaltending U, SIG, we like to call it, and it's available at Google Play and the Apple Store. And Cami, I can't thank you enough for joining John and I, a couple of the old guys here, just talking goaltending. It was a pleasure, and we just want to thank you very much for being part of this.
Thanks for having me.
Cami, thank you. It's great hearing your story. I mean, going from just playing as a kid to college hockey to Sweden to women's pro hockey, all this stuff that you didn't think was going to be available to you 10, 15 years ago, and all the stuff you got to experience. And to me, that's what hockey's all about. Letting you take you places you never thought you'd go. And good for you enjoying all that it's offered you. So good for you. And it's been a blast having you on here, and look forward to working with you too.
Thank you. Last thing I'll say. I was home last Christmas and I was looking through this old yearbook that I had from maybe 3rd grade or 4th grade. And there was a section in the yearbook that said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And mine was that I wanted to be a pro hockey goalie. So
wow,
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And
well, thanks for having me.
very similar to John and I, you have successfely avoided a real job.
Yes.
Been
Yeah,
doing
I'm trying
this
to
our
stay away
entire
as long
life.
as I can. Stay away as long as I can.
Yep, I have friends that have them and they don't enjoy them, so I'm very fortunate to be doing what I'm doing.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you.
Good to see everybody.
Bye.